Get out what you put in. Never gonna lose, never gonna win. Long as you're happy, you're always gonna grin. You get out what you put in. You get out what you put in. Never gonna lose, never gonna win. Long as you're happy, you're always gonna grin. You get out what you put in. You get out what you put in. You get out what you put in. There we go. That's the theme tune. Hello, Olivia James, and how are you?
Hello, I am groovy.
Oh, I love that. I love that. That's the first thing you said when you came on earlier. You're groovy. I love groovy. I always say fine and dandy. That's my thing. But yeah, I love a groovy chick. So yeah, welcome today. First up, tell us a little bit about yourself, please, Olivia.
Yes, hi. So yes, I'm a performance specialist and therapist, and I practice in Harley Street and virtually. And I'm best known for my work with treating public speaking anxiety, performance anxiety. I do a lot of that, and I also treat confidence issues and trauma.
Wow, that's amazing. So you're going to give me some tips at the end of this and tell me what I did wrong and stuff like that, aren't you? Now I am so worried.
The inner critic is already
active. My goodness. Oh my goodness. Hey, it's all water off a duck's back for me. I'm just very good at being me, so that's what I do. So,
yes.
So you do all this performance coaching, and you help accountants and bookkeepers, but you've got quite a wide range of things that you do.
Yes.
Firdaus has already come in and said good morning. I keep calling you Firdaus. I hope I'm pronouncing your name properly. Thank you for coming. Nice to see you. So how long have you been doing this and working with accountants and bookkeepers?
I've been working with humans since about the mid 90s.
Wow.
In various guises and capacities. And so I started off doing body work, and I soon realized that most of the time people hold a lot of stress and trauma, anxiety in their body that isn't just physical, but it's also mental. And so then I gradually added different techniques to my sort of toolkit to help with some of those things, which led me to fly all over the world and train with amazing people in America and stuff. So yes, so since about the mid 90s, and I've sort of gradually been refining and sort of widening what I can do. So basically each person I see can have a very bespoke treatment for their particular situation.
Sure. So it's bespoke rather than here it comes in, one size fits all. Because you see some of these coaching programs, and you sort of we'll put them all in a room, we'll tell them all this, and then that's it. Bit like Tony Robbins, for example. Yeah. So you're the equivalent of Tony Robbins, but on a one-to-one basis. How does that sound? And you don't scream and shout.
I'm not a fan, to be honest.
No worries. So what challenges are you seeing the profession having at the moment, Olivia?
I'm seeing people just really struggling to stay functional with what's everything that's been happening. So, people have got their own personal trauma history, their own family responsibilities. And then also we're hopefully coming out of the pandemic. We're not quite sure, which has been a huge collective trauma. And I'm still seeing people testing positive. So we've had that. We've got this incredible cost of living crisis where even my clients or their clients are really struggling to cope. I think we've lost a lot of security. Back in the day, when you were you could pretty much say get a job and you would then be pretty sure that you would have that job for life pretty much, and things aren't really the same anymore. So then we've also got the conflict in Ukraine at the moment happening. So everything is very much up in the air, and it's almost it's a lot. It's a lot for people to carry and stay functional. And I know that obviously mental health is a really big issue for many of us, and I'm really glad it's sort of getting to be talked about more. But still, there are lots of issues with people getting access to help, because the systems are so overwhelmed at the moment. So people are dealing with a huge amount.
Yeah, you're a bundle of laughs, aren't you?
Yeah, sorry. Like I do a whole lecture on at business schools about the dark side. Basically, as a therapist, what I have to do always is like deal with what's there and like acknowledge the reality of the situation, because we can all like give little positive, like we call it toxic positivity. We can all give toxic little reframes and stuff, but it isn't going to help the person deal with the reality of what people are facing. So the first step is always to really look and see what's happening, then to like resource people to deal with the situation that they find themselves in. So yes, I know it's not easy, but that's how that's what I found to be helpful for people. Instead of like going, oh well, it's all going to be fine. No, actually, I think one of the biggest thing about like self-care and actual performance is to deal with what's actually happening and to acknowledge it and then make a plan.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And today, I don't know if you realize, today is the second anniversary of the day that we went into lockdown in the UK, which is quite incredible. And yeah, so I'd love to chat to you about toxic positivity, but I'm not sure that's going off script a little bit. But that is a great thing, because a lot of people call me Tigger, and so I can sort of like I am aware that I could be toxic to some people.
I did a piece for the Evening Standard. I think it's pinned to my profile if people are interested in finding out more about like toxic positivity, especially when it comes to people dealing with grief. Like a friend of mine, her husband has just died, and it's like when you're dealing with somebody in grief, it's so uncomfortable and you kind of want to cheer them up, and in those situations people can actually end up saying like the wrong thing. So and it's much harder to say, I'm really sorry, like this happened, and it like I can't imagine what it's like, and saying, instead of saying, oh well, cheer up, you were lucky because he lived so long, and you'll meet someone else next week, like that sort of like that can actually be much more hurtful to the person.
Yeah.
So yes, it's a fascinating area, but no, I think you can tell I'm a pretty cheerful person as well, but also as part in my work, I do have to deal with some really difficult things that people are dealing with. So yes,
absolutely. So how do you actually help people that are struggling with all this that's going on? Like we touched upon it earlier. My wife reads a lot of the news, and she's absolutely traumatized by what's going on in Ukraine.
Yes.
And she worries about it and stuff like that. What can we do?
Yes, exactly. That's a very good point, and I think lots of us have felt incredibly traumatized by watching the news. So we call this vicarious trauma. So it's like trauma by proxy. So basically, for people watching, like a trauma is something really serious that's like a threat to life or a threat of serious harm, and that can happen to us. But when we witness it happening to other people, we can also get traumatized, and this is what's called vicarious trauma. So lots of people journalists are really at risk of that. I did an interview a while ago with for specifically for journalists on this, but also people in the helping profession, but even people like your wife. I mean, even just opening the newspaper and seeing those scenes of devastation and seeing people fleeing and thinking, wow, walking down your own like neighborhood and thinking, wow, this could have happened to me by some accident of birth. This could be happening here. And bear in mind this, this happened obviously in the UK in the Second World War, but I think all of us had kind of thought that wasn't going to happen anymore somehow. So when it does happen, it's such a big shock. And so your question is what you can do. I think first of all is to acknowledge that taking in lots of it isn't necessarily going to help you be helpful. So one of the things that happens is when we have a lot of trauma, as our system can go into like a freeze state, like a physiological freeze. And it can, remember at the beginning of the pandemic, when we're watching the news and endlessly scrolling, and it was like all of us were kind of in this freeze state. With the conflict in Ukraine, again, I think it's a very similar thing. So it can be easy to get so frozen and traumatized by it that we can't take action. So my advice to people as always is to focus on any small thing that you can do to help. So so you can get yourself back into that mobilized state. So even if it's like doing a bake sale or like donating or whatever it might be, any small thing that you can do, definitely do it, because it will actually help you. Because the other thing that can happen is, of course, we can get very, very guilty. We can have this survivor's guilt of thinking, wow, I wish I'd done more, I should do something, but I can't. So anything that can get you mobilized out and doing something small will actually help you. It will help you. So yes, that's my sort of brief answer to dealing with vicarious trauma. So yeah, so people are interested, they can ask me, like, feel free to DM me and I can send you the link to that interview.
That would be lovely. Thank you.
I've just news. Yeah.
I've just put up the ticker tape at the bottom. So if anyone's got any questions for Olivia, please fire away. Fire away. So what's your best story of how you've helped an accountant or a bookkeeper then that you could probably share with us without giving too much away?
Exactly. So as I explained to you, I have to be really, really mindful of confidentiality. So what I tend to do is create a blended case study or a case vignette, so the person wouldn't necessarily recognize themselves. But yeah, so I worked with Simon, and he had he really wanted to like raise his profile. And this meant doing like the kind of thing that we're doing now, like doing interviews, doing podcasts, doing industry conferences. But he'd had like a really bad experience early on in his career with public speaking, where somebody had basically told him to speak at a conference and give someone else a speech. And he kind of did it, but then when it came to the Q&A, he didn't know what to do. So it was like a really bad like experience in his head. So what I do with a client like that is we sort of like have to go back, find out where the sort of like actually the anxiety triggers came from, try and neutralize those, and then resource the client to help them regulate their own kind of anxiety in the moment, and then also give them practical strategies to help them then go on and do a little podcast, speak at a conference, go on TV, but with support, but in a way that's manageable for them. So because most people, what tends to happen is they have a bad experience, and then avoidance becomes the default coping strategy.
Yeah.
And it's completely understandable. And then of course we're laden with all this silly advice that doesn't help anybody. Like, well, you just got to pretend that your anxiety is excitement. Like if somebody has a severe public speaking phobia, like a reframe like that just isn't going to help them. Or imagine the audience naked isn't going to help.
I was going to say that.
Isn't going to help Simon. Somebody like
no,
Simon,
not at all.
Genuinely isn't going to help. But then what happens is Simon thinks, well, but if this is meant to help, this advice is meant to help, so there must be something really, really wrong with me. And that there are charts of the nervous system behind me. The nervous system is often responsible for like that fight flight response, or sometimes where somebody completely like their mind will go blank. I've treated various clients who have had not been great at public speaking, but then sometime they're speaking at a conference and then suddenly their mind goes completely blank and they're just like they literally have forgotten what they were saying. and that can then become a trauma. So then we have to sort of deal with that trauma, because they're obviously professionally, that's a complete nightmare. Can you imagine, like, being at a conference?
No.
You're there as the expert, and then you completely go to pieces. Then, of course, avoidance becomes your default strategy. So that's kind of the kind of things that I help people with, very much on the down low, very much behind the scenes, and help them sort of resource them to start building their confidence up by doing, but in a way that's manageable.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. So how can people get hold of you?
So my biggest social media platform is LinkedIn. I've got about 11,000 connections at the moment. So please connect with me on LinkedIn. Send me a message. And also go to my website, harleystreetcoach.com. And if you have any questions you'd like to ask me, I'm happy to do that. And if anybody wants to have I do offer a free little 15-minute chat. If somebody wants to ask me a question, I'm very happy to do that.
And that's all on brand. I love the 15 minutes. So thank you, Olivia. Have you got anything exciting coming up you want to tell us about?
Yes, I'm actually, I did a poll the other day. I know LinkedIn polls are bad, but I decided to do one to ask what I could possibly do to help raise money for Ukraine. And the overwhelming vote was a workshop on resilience. So I'm putting this together, but I'm looking for people to help me with the back of house, sort of like ticket sales, promotion, like hosting, all that kind of stuff. So please, if anybody is good at that kind of stuff, we've seen various really brilliant things like this on LinkedIn. We've seen Lena Turner doing amazing work, like raising lots of money. So if anybody would like to help me, please DM me. I desperately need your help. I can like deliver the training, but the back of house is something that I need your help with. So I'd love to do that. So that's the biggest thing I've got coming up.
Fantastic. And so what sort of expertise do you need?
I need people who can help me with ticket sales, hosting, promotion. So basically I'll be the show pony, but I need people to do everything else. I need roadies.
All right. And is this a real event, or it's an online event?
This will be a virtual event.
A virtual event. Okay. And have you got a date yet?
No, I don't have a date.
Right. Okay. So you want all these people to come to you and say, look, I can help. And
yes.
Excellent. So just send you a message on LinkedIn. What you can do is, when this is finished, if you go into the post, you can actually put that link in there, and people can get hold of you. That sounds incredible. So yeah, if you need somebody to stand up front and shout at people, then pick me. I'm quite happy. I'm quite happy to help. But thank you so much for being on today. I've got one more question for you. But before I do that, I just need to go in and let you know who my guest is next week. I have got, I don't know if you know Mark Lee.
I do know Mark Lee very well. So he's my pal from the Professional Speaking Association.
Absolutely. I think that's where we met, wasn't it? I think what I'm going to do is I might get him to do a magic trick as well. So I'm really looking forward to seeing Mark next week. That'll be good. I've known Mark for donkey's years. So I've got Mark on next week. So I'm going to grill him. So please come back and watch. But so thank you to everybody for watching today. Thank you for Firdousi for all your lovely questions. And this is a closing statement from Firdousi. A hug will work. Absolutely. So my final question to you: when you were at primary school, what did you want to do when you grew up?
I wanted to be a vet.
Oh wow.
So in a way, I sort of still do a little bit of that. I still like operate on people. I always liken what I do to like keyhole surgery. I sort of try and go in and out like with a minimal amount of fuss. So yes, I wanted to be a vet, and then later on I wanted to be a journalist, which is fun because I actually do a lot of that. I do a lot of work with journalists now. I comment on press stories and stuff. So in a way, I've sort of combined the two, which I quite like.
Absolutely, that's fantastic. And so I can't think who said it, but if you do something that you enjoy, you'll never work another day in your life. And it seems that that's what you're doing. So
yes.
Absolutely fantastic. Olivia, thank you so much for coming today and spending a bit of time with us. And I look forward to speaking to you again very soon. Thank you, everybody. We will be back here next week. I got a special show tomorrow. I wonder if I've actually got the thing in there. I didn't bring it in. Look at that. How rubbish of me. So tomorrow at midday, I am talking to some authors, and we are talking about how to write your very first book. So I'm really excited about that. So if anybody wants to write a book, then come along and have a chat with those guys tomorrow. But thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Olivia, and we'll see you all soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.